Hello everyone. Today we are going to study about biological classification, that is chapter number 2 of NCERT. In this chapter we are going to learn about the classification of all the organisms present on the earth. So since early days people have made so many attempts to classify living organisms. So on the basis of its uses, humans have tried to classify it, like whether certain organism is essential to provide food, or it is useful for providing clothing or shelter or something like that. So they have divided it into groups according to its use. Scientifically, first of all, Aristotle was the person or scientist who has classified organisms according to the morphological characters. So he classified all the living organism into two broad categories, that is plants and animals. It was very easy to classify it, so he classified it into plants and animals. Plants further into trees, herbs and shrubs according to its size and its uses. Again, he classified animals into two groups, that is the organisms which had RBC and which did not have RBC. Next came Linnaeus, Carolus Linnaeus. So he is the father of taxonomy also. So if you want to learn about taxonomy, systematics and basis of classification, all those, you can go through my previous video. So Linnaeus gave two kingdom system of classification. He also divided all the organisms into two groups, that is Plantae and Animalia. Here also there are many drawbacks in his classification, that is he could not distinguish between eukaryotes and prokaryotes. So what is eukaryotes? Eukaryotic organisms are those who have true nucleus. Okay, so organism has true nucleus, and cellular organization means cellular organelles are present within the cell and well organized. But in prokaryotes, the cell lacks true nucleus. It has nuclei and it lacks membrane bound intracellular organelles. So he could not distinguish through this two kingdom system of classification. He also could not categorize unicellular and multicellular organism. Also, he could not categorize photosynthetic and non-photosynthetic organisms. That is, which organism can produce their own food with the help of sunlight, that is green algae, and other organisms which cannot synthesize their own food with the help of sunlight, that is non-photosynthetic fungi. Third system of classification, R.H. Whitaker in 1969 proposed 5 kingdom system of classification, and it is accepted till date. So he classified all the living organisms present on this earth into 5 major categories, that is known as kingdom. So all the drawbacks that has been seen till now has been sorted out. He classified all the living organisms into Monera, Protista, fungi, Plantae and Animalia. So what did he see here? Monera included all the unicellular prokaryotic cells, that is cell. It is not multicellular. The organism is made up of a single cell, and it does not have true nucleus. It has nucleoid. It does not have membrane bound organelles. That is why it is known as prokaryote, and it has cell wall, but it doesn't made up of cellulose, right? Cellulose is the main constituent of plant cell wall, but here cell wall is not made up of cellulose. And Monera, this kingdom contains major group, that is bacteria. Bacteria falls under the Monera kingdom, and these organisms can be autotrophic, that is it can synthesize their own food from the sunlight, so it may be known as photoautotrophic, and it can utilize many chemicals chemical compounds to form food, their own food. It does not depend on other organism for its food, so those organisms are called chemoautotrophic organism. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition is also found, that is it can depend on dead organisms, that is it can be saprophytic, decomposers. Other group may be parasitic, that is it live inside or on the body of the host cells and it harms them, it harms host. So Monera is the kingdom which contains these kind of organisms. Now Protista. Protista also contains unicellular organism, but here the organism are eukaryotic. All the organisms which are unicellular and has true nucleus, proper membrane bound cell organelles, that is they are eukaryotes, and they may also show autotrophic and heterotrophic mode of nutrition, right? Again here we can see the third kingdom, that is fungi. Fungi has also cell wall and it is made up of chitin, not cellulose. And here the organisms are eukaryotic but multicellular. There are no organization of tissue, proper tissue, organ and organ system can be found. Organisms show saprophytic and parasitic mode of nutrition, right? Next is the Plantae. Plantae are the kingdom which contains all the living organisms which have cellulosic cell walls and shows photosynthesis, that is those organisms are autotrophic. They traps light, they perform photosynthesis, synthesize their own food, and it does not depend on other organism for their food at all. And these kind of organism has tissue, that is similar kind of cells together form tissue, and tissue further specialized to form different tissues, specialized to form organs to perform particular kind of function. So here two mode of organization can be found, that is tissue and organ. Next is the Animalia. So fifth kingdom is Animalia. Animalia has all the living organism which has no cell wall. It does not contain any cell wall, and it shows higher level of organization such as tissue, organ system, and finally an individual. These organisms shows heterotrophic mode of nutrition, that is holozoic and saprophytic. So basic criteria for 5 kingdom classification you have seen till now are the cell structure, body organization, mode of nutrition, reproduction, and phylogenetic relationships. So these are the basic criteria on the basis on which all the living organisms on this earth has been classified into 5 kingdoms. So first kingdom which we are going to study in detail is Monera. So its habitat. Monera contains basically bacteria in this category, right? So its habitat is found almost everywhere. Bacteria are found almost everywhere on this earth. If you take a handful of soil, it may contain thousands and millions of bacteria. It is present even on our skin, inside our body, inside our mouth, right? So it is found almost everywhere, from the extreme high temperature to low temperature, such as hot springs, deserts, snow, deep oceans. And its mode of nutrition, autotrophic, that is autotrophic and heterotrophic. Cell structure, it lacks proper cellular organization, nucleus, that is why it is known as prokaryotic. Cell shape is varied, means it can be spherical. If it is spherical, it is known as coccus. If it is rod shaped, it is known as bacillus. If it is comma shaped, known as vibrio. If spiral shaped, it is known as spiral. And reproduction, it shows 3 different mode of reproduction, that is fission, mostly binary fission, that is one cell will divide into 2. Then spore formation, in adverse situation or condition, cell will form spore and it can survive thousands and thousands of years, and if you get favorable conditions, it can grow into an organism. Also it shows conjugation. Further, kingdom Monera is categorized into 2 categories, that is archaebacteria and eubacteria. So archaebacteria, its habitat is extreme conditions, that is harsh habitats, extreme salty areas. It can exist in extreme salty areas and known as halophiles. It can exist in hot springs and known as thermophiles. Also present in marshy areas and known as methanogens. Methanogens are also present inside the stomach of ruminant animals, and due to that it produces methane gas in the dung of those animals. The cell wall has different structure than other bacteria, that is why it can exist in the extremely harsh habitats. Next category is eubacteria or true bacteria. Its cell wall is rigid, and if it is motile, flagellum is present. It can be photoautotrophs or chemoautotrophs, right? It can be heterotrophic also. Autotrophic bacteria can be categorized into 2 categories, that is photosynthetic autotrophic bacteria and chemosynthetic autotrophic bacteria. In photosynthetic autotrophic bacteria, cyanobacteria comes under it. Cyanobacteria has chlorophyll A. It may be unicellular, colonial or filamentous. It can exist in freshwater, marine, or its show habitat of terrestrial. Colonies are surrounded by gelatinous sheath, that's why you can slip over it, like you might have seen blue-green algae on the marshy wet areas, where if you go through those areas, it is very slippery, you may fall down. And it contains heterocyst, like heterocyst in some of the cyanobacteria like nostoc and Anabaena. Other categories, that is photosynthetic autotrophic bacteria. Chemosynthetic autotrophic bacteria. It oxidizes inorganic substances like nitrates, nitrites, and ammonia. And while oxidization, some energy are released, and this released energy are used by these organisms for synthesis of ATP. And through this ATP, they can have their energy and perform various kind of metabolic reactions going inside the cell. That's why it is also autotrophic. It does not require any other host or organism to depend upon. It helps in recycling nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, iron, and sulfur. Next group is heterotrophic bacteria. It is most abundant, and majority of the group are decomposed category, means it contains most abundant number of bacteria, and most of them are decomposers. That is, it decomposes dead organic materials. That is, it takes food from the dead decaying plants or animal, any other kind of organisms. Thus, it play an important role in recycling of the elements on this earth, and many are useful for human. Others are very useful for humans, such as few bacteria like lactobacillus helps in the formation of curd. Some are useful for the production of antibiotics. Some fixes nitrogen in leguminous plants. It remain associated with the root nodules of the leguminous plants and shows symbiosis. That is, symbiosis means both the living organism like leguminous plants and bacteria both are benefited, because plants get nitrogen from the soil as bacteria fixes the nitrogen to it, and instead of that, bacteria is getting its shelter. Some are harmful pathogens causing damage to human beings, crop, farm animals, and pets. Example: cholera, typhoid, tetanus, citrus canker are some of the diseases caused by different kinds of bacteria. All the other kingdoms we will study in separate videos, right? So till then, thank you and bye bye, take care.